Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Well, day 3 of Magnus week is upon us, and today we continue our discussion on Magnus's first steps towards the Council of Nikaea, as he clashes with Leman Russ. Spoiler warning to begin, the events we are discussing today are from the Horus Heresy novel A Thousand Suns by Graham McNeill. As always, I really recommend you read the story for yourself first, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. Not only that, we help to support the great Games Workshop and Black Library, because without them we don't have this amazing lore to talk about. I will put a link in the description as always. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, yesterday we discussed how perhaps Magnus is his own worst enemy, with the decisions he made leading him into the confrontation with Russ. If you missed yesterday's upload, be sure to go back and give it a listen before continuing on with this one. But when we left off, the 3 legions of the Space Wolves, Thousand Suns and Wordbearers had assaulted the final enemy stronghold upon the world of Arc Reach Secundus. And it was here that Magnus made the pivotal decision to defend the city's great library, not only actively going against Russ's orders to level the town, but even directly preventing the Space Wolves Legion from leveling the library themselves. And this situation only escalated further as the Space Wolves refused to leave, advancing on the position regardless. And so it was Magnus ordered his sorcerers to stop them, and that they did, inflicting the wolves with seizures and spasms of pain, pushing them to the brink of death, before being stopped by Ahriman, fearful of the chaos that was erupting before his very eyes. And as one of the sorcerers fell to mutation, his body overwhelming with sorcerous power, bloating into a monstrosity, it was the bolt gun of Leman Russ that ended his life before the very eyes of Magnus. The Wolf King had arrived, and now, rather than ending the confrontation, it was about to get a whole lot worse. And as I said yesterday, I can't help but feel Magnus bears the brunt for this situation arising, because at least in my mind he hasn't suddenly decided midst battle to do this. His intent the entire time was to keep the library intact. It quite simply is a situation that should have been addressed before the battle. Now, would it have led to an argument with Russ? Yes, most likely, but that is a far preferable outcome than gambling on his legionaries standing down in the midst of battle. Russ is a hot-headed and stubborn Primarch, there is no doubt about that. And he is equally at fault for how the events will spiral further out of control from this point onwards. But as long as you don't cross a line, such as killing one of his sons or betraying the Emperor, he's also very quick to forgive, such as his grudges with the Lion and even the Khan. The truth is, beneath his savage exterior, there lies an intelligent, calculating mind, and dare I say it, a loving brother. He might not particularly like Magnus before this moment, but he wouldn't have gone to war over a single library. And there's no doubt Magnus is a smart enough mind to know that. Where he has truly failed here is in his execution of his plan. It never should have waited until the battle was underway. Magnus is such a polarizing individual. He has these moments of genuine understanding with his brothers, but he just can't relate it to himself. And I can't say there's anything truly wrong with that, because let's be real here, it's what makes him human. And as elevated as the Primarchs are, we know their very human flaws are elevated to the extreme as well. Now, with all eyes turned to the arrived Primarch Leman Russ, a standoff as silence has descended. Russ and his legion to one side of the causeway, Magnus and the Thousand Sons the other. However, rather than charge forwards in rage, Russ begins to walk, slowly and purposefully, across the causeway, as his legion stays behind. Magnus at the opposite end begins forward to meet him. Two sons of the Emperor, marching to war. None of the legionaries from either side can do anything but watch, each side utterly speechless. A flash of light and clap of thunder breaks the silence between the two Primarchs, as between the two Primarchs a figure appears. Lorgar, Primarch of the Wordbearers, the Urizen, had come. The golden skin of the Urizen shimmers in the light, as he wastes no time in telling his brothers to end this madness, with Russ snapping back for him to get out of the way. However, Lorgar refuses, doubling down on his demand for this to stop, asking Russ what is he going to do, kill him too? And this stops Russ momentarily, a glimpse of the brother beneath breaking through the anger. For all the hate that Lorgar receives, and maybe rightly so for what he would go on to do, the truth is the Primarch he used to be may not have been the best warrior, but he was undoubtedly a good brother. I really would have loved to see some more Great Crusade era interaction between Lorgar and Vulcan. They would be fascinating conversations, both having so much humanity within them. Their contradictory viewpoints would be fascinating conversations. Hopefully one day we'll get them. But back to the story. Russ, however, despite paused by Lorgar, is not done, stating that Magnus has spilled their blood, and this time he has gone too far. Lorgar again tries to reason with his brother, telling Russ anger solves nothing in these moments, and to remember Doolan, his brawl with the lion, how they are now sworn brothers in arms. And it's worth noting here, this has been slightly retconned a bit, at least from my perception, because the bad blood between Russ and the lion is not truly being settled until after the Siege of Terra, when in his grief, Russ lets the lion run him through with the lion sword, and he later reflects that it's this act that clears the bad blood between them. However, regardless of minor retcons, this comment strikes a chord with Russ, and his temper lowers, asking Lorgar if he would stand with a wielder of unclean magic to look at the monster of corruption he slew. Lorgar argues, however, it's just unstable gene seed, trying still to calm the situation further. But then we get a reply from Russ that really shows why this moment defines everything that would come after. Why this mistake from Magnus may just be the worst one of all, because it began the path that would follow. This is more than just unstable gene seed. It is sorcery. You know it as well as I. We all knew Magnus was mired in the black arts, but we turned a blind eye to it because he was our brother. Well, no more, Lorgar, no more. Before this moment, while having no particular fondness for the other, the bond of brotherhood still united Russ and Magnus. They were sons of the Emperor. And it's the key line. We all knew Magnus was mired in the black arts, but we turned a blind eye, because he was our brother. How true this is. We can all relate to turning a blind eye or letting something slide because it's your family. And it's no different for the Primarchs. At the end of the day, they were family. But it's in this one action by Magnus, he has lost that favour. And the sad thing is, despite this argument, he never truly realises it until it's too late. Upon finding out years later that it was after this moment that Russ petitioned the Emperor to sanction Magnus and his legion, in an action that directly leads to the Council of Nikaea, Magnus has a look of genuine shock and sadness cross his face. And it all simply stems from this encounter on Arc Reach Secundus. Back for the tensions in this moment, well, as Magnus and Russ continue to argue the difference between the Stormseers of Fenris and the Sorcerers of Prospero, it's the oratory of the son deemed most akin to their father that ends the argument. Magnus, enough, barked Lorgar. This is not the time for such debate. Two of my dearest brothers are at each other's throats, and it grieves me to know how this shall disappoint our father. Is this what he created us for? Is this why he scoured the heavens looking for us? So we could descend into petty bickering like mortals? We have greater destinies before us, and must above such lesser concerns. We are our father's avatars of conquest, fiery comets of righteousness, set loose to illuminate the cosmos with his glory. We are his emissaries sent out into the galaxy to bear word of his coming. We must be bright, shining examples of all that is good and pure in the Imperium. As Lorgar speaks, his golden skin seems to radiate, akin to his father's, every warrior present suddenly becoming ashamed of their actions. Even Magnus and Russ lower their swords at their brother's words, knowing in their hearts he speaks the truth. Though neither gives in, the bloodlust has gone from their debate, and Russ departs with a vow of blood that this is not over. Magnus has spilled the blood of Fenris, and there will be a reckoning. Man, first of all, I have to say, I absolutely love early Crusade Lorgar. Let's be honest, paint me in gold and he might as well be me, spouting the glory of the Emperor. But seriously, for all his reputed weakness, it took a lot of balls to face down two warring Primarchs. He took a big gamble on himself, and he won. As for Magnus, however, the road to Nikaea has truly begun, and how sad it is that despite this scene, this argument, he just doesn't see it, still convinced in his own righteousness, not realizing how far he has pushed his brothers, until it is too late. I really feel that line of the Primarchs all knowing Magnus was mired in the black arts, but still turned a blind eye, is one of the most overlooked lines of the heresy. It is so important, because I think while yes they did, so too did the Emperor. The Emperor never wanted to sanction Magnus, but once the other Primarchs began voicing their complaints, their accusations of just what Magnus was doing, and Magnus himself continued to dive ever deeper, ignoring his brother's and his father's warnings to stop, the Emperor quite simply had no choice. But as always guys, what do you think? Is it Magnus's own hubris that has led him to this moment? Is this the moment of no turning back? Do we need to start to put a little more respect on the Urizen's name? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I will see you tomorrow as we discuss Magnus and Malcador the Sigillite.